Welcome guys. In this session we will talk about Java database connectivity. So what you can do is you can create a Java project, actually a Maven project, and then you can add the dependencies. So this is the dependency which is required. You can see the group ID as com.mysql, artifact ID mysql connector J, and the version what I'm using is 8.0.31. So this is the dependency which is required for a JDBC connection, and once you add this, you don't have to manually add any jars. This dependency takes care of it. So once this is done, what you can do is you can create a Java class and then you can write the code over there. So let us go to this file over here. So this is the Java database code which I have written. So I've created this class test database connection, and inside this what I have done is I've created this method connect to database, and inside this this is the method, and the return type is of type connection. Okay, and if you see here I have written try and catch block. Inside this try, I've written con is equal to driver manager dot get connection and then the string. So for previous versions we used to write this class dot for name and then com dot mysql dot jdbc dot driver. So I am using mysql, so that's the reason com dot mysql, and then whatever database you used, you would have to mention this like in the previous versions. From this version what I'm using, we do not need this class dot for name statement anymore. We can directly start with this. So this is our connection. I've declared referenced over here connection con, and then I've written over here con is equal to driver manager dot get connection. And if you can see here, I've written JDBC MySQL, then the local host, and then the port number 3306. This is the name of the database, and then the username and password. In case if you are using a database installed on a remote server, you can put the IP address over here. In my case, I have installed it on my local machine, so you can directly put localhost over here. So this is the one statement which is required in order to connect to your database, and then you can just simply write a print line saying that the connection established, and then you can return this connection object over here. So in case of exception, I've written e.print stack trace. So with this exception object, I'm printing the stack trace and then finally returning this connection. So if you see here, point it over here for this connection, the connection session. What is this? It's a java.sql.connection. It's a connection session with a specific database. SQL statements are executed and results are returned within the context of a connection. So this connection is nothing but an interface. To understand more about connection, you can just go through the Oracle documentation and you can read about this connection. And the second one is the driver manager. So this driver manager is a non-abstract class in JDBC API. So if you like hover over it, or you can just read about in the Oracle documentation for more details. So it is the, as I told you, it's a non-abstract class in JDBC API, and it contains only one constructor which is declared private to imply that the class cannot be inherited or initialized directly. Okay, and all the methods and properties of this driver manager class are declared as static, and the main responsibility is to maintain the list of driver info objects where like each driver info object holds one driver implementation class object and its specified name. Okay, it prepares a connection using the driver implementation that accepts the JDBC URL what we have provided. So this is about just the connection. So if this much of code is required for the connection, if you want to call this, you can create main class like what I have done over here. I've created this connect main class, and inside this main method, I've just created an object of this one test database connection where we have written the actual code, and I'm just calling this con.connect to database. This is the name of the method what we are calling, and the return type is connection. So I'm doing that. So you can write the stuff whatever logic you want to write, and then at last you can close the connection. So you can just write connection dot close. So this implementation requires either a try catch block, or you can just write throws SQL exception uh, in order to uh, achieve this. Okay. So yeah, this is all about the Java database connection. Now let us talk about the different stuff, like we'll see some practical examples over here. So here what I have done is I've just created this method what we have already seen, connect to database. Now what we will be doing is we'll calling this method, and we will be connecting to the database. Okay. And this is another file what I have written over here, and inside this let me talk about the statement and the prepared statements. So this is one of the methods which we have created. Like I've marked it as static. So public static void and find country from city table. This is our method name, which throws SQL exception. So the first step is to create an object of test database connection, and then call this object dot connect to database. So it in return it gives you a connection. Okay. So now the database connection is done. What we will do is we'll just write a query. For example, in this case, what we have written is select star from city where country underscore ID is equal to 87. So we need those records from city table where the country ID is equal to 87. Okay. And you will put this query over here, and then once you execute this, like con.create statement, a statement is created, then statement.execute query, you need to call this method and pass this query over here, and then you will return it will return a result set, and then you can iterate it using the while loop rs.next, and then you can print those values. So what you can do is you can create this result set. With the help of this result set, if you do a get int, here you're using get string, and here again get int at get string to retrieve the values from the city table, and at last you are closing the connection. So what we'll do is we'll first quickly go through this connect main where we had already seen like the code, and let me execute this, and then we will move on to execute the other steps also. So let me just run this over here. So it is currently executing, and now see connection established. So test database connection is the file where we had written the code. So here inside this connect to database is the method name, and if you see here connection established. Okay. So we executed this connect main Java file, and here connection con.connect to database, that method was called, and then the connection was closed over here. Now again, let us go back to this one, and this is like find country from city table. So what I'll do is this is my main method. So I'll just comment this one, and I will just uncomment this, save it, and let me execute this over here so that we can see the results. See, the connection is established, that string was printed, and here you can see the results from that. So the result was select star from city where the what was that employee ID, or where the country ID is equal to 87. So here you can see this is the results what we have what we are displaying over here. Okay, so let me give you a brief idea about what is statement and what is the result set. So if we talk about this statement is an interface. So this statement interface, it defines a standard abstraction to execute the SQL statement. So in this case, our SQL statement is this one query. Here we have written. Okay. So it What is this? The statement is an interface which defines a standard abstraction to execute. This is required to execute the SQL statements. And here you can see what we are doing is we are taking this connection and we are calling this create statement. The return type is statement over here, and then the second is the result set. The result set would contain the different rows, a set of rows what we have got after this executing this query. So once you get this result set, then with the help of this while loop, with this method rs dot next, it will move to the next row. Initially it is pointing above the first row, and then when you write this rs dot next, it moves on to the first row, and then similarly you can retrieve the records and print it. Okay. Second method what I have written is, let me just go to this one, select all from actor. So again, what we are doing is we are creating an object of test database connection, and we are connecting that database. And inside this con.create statement, then execute query, our query select star from actor. So here what the style of writing was like here. If you see here, it is a bit different. I have written over here in a string, like string query, and I'm passing the query over here. What you can do is you can follow the same approach, or you can just put the query inside this, like select star from city where country ID is equal to 87. Okay, so there is no much difference, but I would prefer the first way, like string query, and then you can pass the query into it. So here again we are doing the same thing. Execute the query, we'll get the results back, and then we are just printing those results. Okay. So the second is select all from actor. Let me just quickly execute that. So I will go over here and uncomment this, select star, select all from actor, and comment this one. Save it and let me execute that to see the results. And it is executing, and here you can see the results over here. So this is the result. As you can see, the total records over here. Okay, cool. So now what we'll do is we'll move on to the other method, which is find country from city table using PS. This one is for the prepared statement. Okay, so this is I was talking about this method. So this prepared statement is again an interface. So this prepared statement interface is the subclass of the statement interface. So statement interface, what we have already seen. So this prepared statement is the subclass of the statement interface, which can be used to represent a pre-compiled query. Okay, which can be executed multiple times. So here if you see, what we have done is we are taking an example of inserting into some table with the values. So here in this case, see what I am doing is, in case of values, I am not passing directly the values. I am just passing this question mark over here. So let us go through this code. First, what we are doing, the standard approach, creating an object of test database connection, then object obj.connect to database. Your database connection is done. Then this is your query. String query is equal to insert into city. This is your table name and values. And for these parameters, what we are doing, we are just passing the question mark over here. Then we are taking this prepared statement, ps is equal to con dot prepare statement, and then pass the query inside it. Now what we are doing here is to set those values. We need to set those values. Okay. Previously we were getting those values. We used get int and get string. Now what we will do is we'll use set it and set string. So here we are passing over the values like 601 Mumbai, 101, and this one. Okay, these are the values what we are passing. And then you can see ps dot execute update. This is the method what we will be calling, and this is like the how many rows were inserted. It will pass that value. We are keeping it in n, and then we are printing like how much rows was inserted, and we are closing the connection.